small business owners, entrepreneurs, medium startups, and VCs, this one's for you. Welcome to Beyond the Bottom Line, Balancing Evolution with Execution, hosted by Elevate Talent Solutions founder and CEO, Ron Miller. Through Ron's own hard-won wisdom, as well as that of an array of luminaries across the entrepreneurial ecosystem, you'll glean priceless wisdom that will help you see past the day-to-day grind and into the future, where you can check off today's to-do list and achieve innovation and elevation to ensure your business is future-proofed, fulfilling, and profitable. It's time for Beyond the Bottom Line, Balancing Evolution with Execution. Take it away, Ron.
So everybody, welcome back in today's episode of Beyond the Bottom Line, Balancing Evolution with Execution. If you've listened before, or even if you're a new listener, just want to make sure you know this show is really about a clear, concise, no fluff, no BS look, and talk about how to start growing and scaling your business for long-term success. So we all know that success is not built overnight. It comes in a lot of different forms. And one thing that I see firsthand over my 30 years in the staffing industry, especially, is the power of social equity and its positive impact it can and will have on your business, and not only your business, but your employees as well, and how your business future is starting to be shaped. Having a strategy is not only good for your business in the short and the long term, but it really helps you bring together extremely qualified, high-performing individuals that are going to have different perspectives to help you build, scale, and grow your business. And today, I'm really honored to bring you someone who has just an amazingly high and strong background in generating results for startups, high growth scale startups, and large global businesses, including 10 years as a DEI leader at, and I always pronounce the company wrong, Carolyn, I'm sorry, but Deloitte. She's just celebrating her first year as a founder and principal of ClearPath. And I'd love for you to welcome Carolyn Lawrence. So Carolyn, welcome to the show. You are a social equity expert and consultant that helps organizations drive sustainable growth. So welcome to the show. I'm happy to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
So I want to start off, I wrote something down in one of our conversations, just for anyone that's watching or listening. I absolutely adored talking to you the other week. I think I could probably talk to you for about like 3 hours on a lot of different topics. But today, something that we kind of said and I wrote down is with social equity and DE&I, it's never too early to start, but it's always too late to begin. And that really
you totally nailed it with that comment.
It was one of those Zen moments that just comes out, but it really, it's so true. And I've seen that firsthand, and especially with what I do in Elevate Talent Solutions in my business, and going in and helping organizations kind of untangle their operations and build their recruiting. And on the recruiting side, especially, I see this all the time where job descriptions are normally 6 or 8, 10 years old, and they have exclusive language in them. And it's not that anyone's doing that on purpose. It's just they copy, paste, and do what they always do. And they're missing out on talent. And I could talk forever about what I do to help organizations, but I'd really love to jump into the conversation with you and let you and your expertise guide us in this. And really, what is social equity? A lot of people, I know it's a huge buzzword right now on DE&I and social equity and what's happening here and some of the programs and views on them. But I think we really got to start off with, what is social equity?
Yeah, it's a good place to start. And I might say even one step before that, I'm helping companies try and turn their purpose, like their corporate purpose statement, into profit. And in order to do that, we need to think about social equity. How I define it is on the inside of your company, you're looking at, are we diverse demographically and also cognitively? Do we have equitable talent systems? Are we inclusive in our culture? Do our people feel inspired, competent? Do they trust us? That's the inside. But it's also the outside. Is our company's
business and mission tied to our purpose? Are we having a social good? Are our actions or inaction creating an impact that we are proud of in our community, to our customers? Are we driving that and tying it back to how we operate? Does our inside and our outside match? If they do, then that purpose is going to drive our profitability. And so going back to, I've been focused on this for 25 years since I've been in the workforce. And I'm so committed to it because over those 25 years, we've learned so much about our impact as corporations, as businesses on our planet, on people, as workers, but also as consumers in communities. And as I've become more and more invested into this, it's not just the right thing to do, it's actually a compelling business case. But what always gets me is that, and we can talk about the business case, I have all the stats you ever need, but that's not enough. The business case has been out for what, 10, 15 years.
Yes.
It's proven.
Yes.
It's proven. You can Google any report from any consulting company around the world, and it's going to say conclusively that this works. This makes organizations that have a strong purpose, strong DEI, strong ESG, whatever the acronym is that you want to use, it works. Those companies outperform the companies that don't have that on every measure: revenue, profitability, innovation, you name it, attracting the best and brightest, retaining those people. Why aren't we all doing it? And this sort of gets us to what I hope we're going to spend some time talking about today is, well, it's hard and we don't really know how. And maybe it's scary, but these things work. And so my mission now as the founder of ClearPath is to actually help startup companies before they get too big adopt some of these practices, because I've spent so long working with the large Fortune 500 and beyond, large global organizations. When you bring me in at that scale, in order to adopt change, we're talking 5-10 year transformations with huge dollars attached to it. And you're lucky if you've not had a big problem, brand risk, regulatory fines. You're lucky if you've made it that far without some issues already happening. So I'm saying, why don't we just start from the beginning, lay some good foundation, and then we can all grow together? I don't know. Maybe it's a bit Pollyanna, but that's what I'm hoping for.
Listen, we need a little bit more Pollyanna, honestly.
Maybe we do.
Because, you know, a lot like you, I've been in these big organizations. I've seen it firsthand where I don't want to say it's not a understanding of it, but to your point, like it is a turn. It's a change in how you do, who you are and how you operate. And for those of you like listening to our last show about establishing your value prop early, you'll kind of understand why, for me, I wanted to get Carolyn in front of everybody now, because tying right into that as to who you are and what you stand for. It's not just about attracting talent the right way from the beginning, but it's establishing what your organization means, the impact it is going to have beyond the staff that you hire, and what that view is that you bring to your business and the diversity of that view, because it's not a one size fits all. You know, when you have too many of the same minds in the same room, you have one straight goal and you don't have any other peripherals to operate within, and you're missing a lot of things. But I think kind of winding it right back is it's hard if you've not started this already. And it's probably hard thinking about it. You know, how many organizations do we see on Pride Month that love to post that we support Pride Month? I know as my organization, we post every month in support, because for me, that support doesn't end because it's the month. It's like Veterans Day. Everybody loves to support Veterans Day. But why are we not doing that more frequently throughout the year? And I think that comes right back to maybe where you want to begin and really spend time in this conversation. How in the hell do you even start? What does it mean? And where do you begin with that?
Yeah, it's such a great example. And if I can use a maturity model, because I've got a consultant's training.
I love it. I love it. You have data. I love data.
I have data, I have frameworks. I've got a lot of 2x2s. If we think about it in terms of how do we approach it? How do we know what good looks like? Because I think a lot of us don't even know what good looks like in social equity. If you think of level 1, we think of, I'm just doing the bare minimum to be compliant, to not get sued in a major way. Table stakes.
Which is a horrible way to look at business, by the way. Like, if that's how you're operating, you need to contact
Correct.
Carolyn, and we'll get you her info later. I just want to be very clear about that.
Exactly. Level 2 is sort of what you were just describing, which is programmatic, meaning we celebrate Pride Month, or we're there at International Women's Day and our women are on the panel and we're talking about it and we're supporting it in that way. Or we've got an employee resource group even, and we gather communities together to talk about their advancement in the organization. This is programmatic. Those things are not going to change the culture or give you the performance lift on their own. These are great programs, don't get me wrong, but on their own will not change, will not add value in any way. And oftentimes, if they go on long enough and then they don't show an impact or change, then people go, well, what's this for? Now I'm getting tired. And now maybe they don't work. Maybe DEI doesn't work. Have we heard that before? Yes. The reason it doesn't work is because you haven't done all the other things that require you to change. Sorry, I know, change is hard, but hear me out. Level 3 is where you start to see the performance benefit. That's when leaders can really lead, all leaders, not just the DEI leader or the HR leader. It's that every leader understands the business case for embedding social equity into how you do business. They understand and can communicate and role model inclusive leadership behaviors, like curiosity.
Right.
A simple one. Cultural intelligence, like just being aware that people have different social values than you or cultural values than you and world values, and even just basics like time zones. I can't tell you how many times I've talked about just being respectful of time zones in a global operation. So that's level 3, and this is where you start to see the transition. When leaders can lead on this front, you start to see people engage. Their performance improves. You attract better talent. You retain that talent. So all of a sudden, you're saving money and making more. This is great. We're loving it. So how to integrate it? And this is where I get to what I was saying earlier. Everything you're doing feeds your business outcomes and your purpose. So if you are truly integrated, your whole company is tied to the mission and understands what to do and how they show up every day contributing to that. And that impacts your employees, the customers that you have, the communities that you operate in. It's all reinforcing how you do well, essentially, by doing good. And this is such a powerful way of looking at a business. There are some great examples of large companies that have, I like to think of Salesforce, and that they didn't necessarily start with an altruistic purpose. They started with a great business idea, but they layered it in. And one of the standout examples of being able to layer in with a huge dollar amount that they've been quite public sharing about how much it took them to integrate a philanthropic model into their business to make sure that the people that they employ and the people they serve are part of the ecosystem, that they're making it better now. But what I love are the startups that are starting from there. And I interviewed a CEO of a really successful fintech in Canada, where I'm based, the other day. And I asked him what was making him successful and his purpose and really standing it up in the organization. Was that really critical to how he started his business? And he said, yes. Identifying the need, the social need, was core to his business idea. It wasn't something they tacked on at the end. or it was a program in HR, or it was a charitable donation that really made the difference. It was that they saw something that was needed to improve lives of a group of people and created a business to serve that need. But then second to that, he integrated it. So in all the areas of his business, empathy for the customer if they're not reflective of that customer. So this is such a great example of what I mean by integrated. It's not just a thing that happens on the side of someone's desk once a year or once a month. It's how you do things.
Yeah. Well, to that point, like in that, I love that integrated term, because if you think you have a social equity program or DEI initiatives that are working, but you have to think about it, you're not integrated. Because in
Exactly.
that model, like when you get there, it's not just something that you do, it's something that you're living. You don't even know that you're doing it. And I teach this in recruiting a lot to recruiters about what they do in their job is not just posting and praying. And that's what a lot of recruiters do. They get jobs. It's reactive. They put them out there. It goes on job boards. They're only getting a certain section of people that are available in a very short section of time, where when you build the right feeder model for your organization, you're building to the future and you get involved in those DE&I programs, that you have to give first before you have the ads. You can't just go in with guns a-blazing, say that, hey, I'm going to promote your business. You do a post that you support them, and then they're just going to work with you. Like, it's not about that. And if that's your approach, you're not integrated because you're not thinking of it on the right level.
Exactly. And I see, or less so now, but I think I saw maybe 5 or 10 years ago, companies, when we started really focusing on DEI or ESG, focusing in a programmatic way. And I think we've had a hard time coming out of that and approaching it from a more strategic way. That's what I do and how I recommend organizations start. It sounds maybe like a no-brainer. Oh, you're recommending we start with a strategy, Carolyn. Thanks so much. That's really great. But it's actually a unique way to approach DEI from my experience. We don't approach it strategically. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it feels like a more personal issue, or it sometimes can feel like a bit charged in some arenas and hot, and maybe the executives don't want to get too close. But it's a strategy, and it's an important strategy for your business to be higher performing and more profitable. So think of it like that. Think of it like a lever to enable your growth. And if you start with then, okay, how do I approach it strategically then? Well, you look at your opportunities to impact a group of people. You look at your gaps. Where do you have barriers that you may not be thinking about a process, or like, do your target customers have access to your product, or can they not actually get to it? Or in the design, did you miss a step about who needs this the most, and do they have what it takes and what they need in order to buy your product, use your product? Have you just thought of the process steps along the way? Then you can think about how to measure it. This should be a business as usual measure. So as much as you're measuring revenue and profitability, you should be measuring equity. You should be measuring social impact on the outside. As much as you're measuring perhaps environmental impact, it's social impact as well. And so thinking about that, and then how you attract and retain people. And, one of my favorites where people often get stuck, and I sort of see it coming from a mile away. I will walk into a large sort of thriving tech organization filled with brilliant people who are all so smart. Like, just they've got it going on. They're scaling like bananas, and they see me coming because they know they want to do what's right for diversity and inclusion. And I have this great example where one of them, the company will remain nameless, but sort of like crossed his arms and was like, I know what you're going to tell me. He's so smart, right? And so I said, what? He said, I need to hire more women into my team. And I said, I actually don't know if that's what you need to do. I haven't looked at the data and seen really what's going on. But he said, but you can sort of look around and see that I don't have enough diversity at my leadership table, and I'm about to make a hire, and I have these 2 resumes that have come down to the top, and one is the best candidate and one is a diversity hire. You're going to tell me I have to hire the diversity hire, aren't you? I said, there's no chance that I'm going to do that. I'll never do that. I do not recommend that strategy ever to anyone. And he's like, but what, don't we need diversity at the senior leadership table? I said, absolutely you do. But that's the last step in the process. What we need to do first is think about, how do we create an inclusive culture? How do we make sure that our hiring practices are fair and unbiased? How do we source the best candidates to begin with, so that the next time you have a decision to make, you have a clear winner? And you don't have to make a decision about, am I hiring for diversity or hiring for the best candidate? It should be clear who the best candidate is, because you've done all the work to get diverse candidates to the table first. And then you know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Then you know how to measure success. And so we went through a process of identifying what their biggest gaps were and biggest opportunities. We got buy-in, we wrote a strategy, and we wrote essentially a clear path. This is the name of my company. This is what we do. Taking a really messy, hot subject and try to distill it into like 3 key priorities that can just help you get from here to there, from level 2 to level 3 in a year, and for it to feel approachable and simple and not make people have to do weird things like hire for diversity. Don't ever do that. No one wants to do that.
I think probably a lot of people are hearing you say this right now. Go, wait, hold on. What do you mean? I absolutely understand exactly what you're saying. And I think maybe for some of our audience, let me break it down this way for you. So we have a lot of NFL fans that probably listen to this show, because we love our football as much as we love our baseball. Some of us love football more. But in the NFL, they put in the Rooney Rule, right? And it was to create insurance for diversity in hiring head coaches. And I think what's ironic even today for me as a fan is the media loves to talk about, well, they didn't have somebody to check off the Rooney Rule box, or they didn't interview this, or this is the person. And it never gets to where you're trying to get to. And a lot of aspiring businesses is you shouldn't even have to have the rule, because you're not looking to just make a diversity hire. You're looking for the best person because it's part of your fabric already. And
got it.
Candidates from other walks of life and other areas are attracted to your organization because you get it.
Yes.
And I think that's the big disconnect.
Totally. You're exactly right. And for the record, I've used the Rooney Rule. When we're at a level 1 situation and you need to do something to get an organization moving up along the needle, we've implemented things like that. But that's not going to get the performance lift, right? So if we're focused on performance, profit, growth, which if we're listening, that's what we're keen on, right? I mean, we're here to make a good living. We're here to
grow a business.
We're here to grow a business. Don't waste your time there. If you need it to get you from one place to another, sure, it could help a little, but you're focused on the wrong things. Shoot for the stars, because that will work better.
Absolutely. And I think it really, what you tie into too, with turning it into sustainable growth and profit, it goes back to that conversation hit me that you just had with that CEO. You're going to tell me I need this diversity hire. If that's your approach and you make the diversity hire, you're taking somebody and putting them in a position from day one where you don't have buy-in and they might not be ready for that role. So now you have a trickle down effect in your organization of Is it going to be someone that can make decisions that is going to positively impact it? Is it going to be somebody that can grow people the right way? Is it somebody that can sustain the vision and push it forward? So you can have a negative impact on your business by not really understanding, right? If you assume you know what diversity inclusion is, we all know, then you wind up being the first three letters of assume. That's what you look like. Okay, listen, it's a no BS look, Carolyn. So I just put it all out there,
Yeah,
but
I got it.
I see that happen constantly. And listen, I didn't understand early in my career really what that meant.
Yeah.
And it was through education and really kind of like understanding and talking to folks where it finally clicked for me of we're not looking to check those boxes off and follow a process step. We shouldn't even have to have that in place to get to the best qualified person because we're bringing in a diverse pool of people from day one because that's who we are.
Exactly.
So we know where you are with larger businesses. So if I'm coming to you in a startup, like where should I really begin? Like what are some of the steps I should take early on? You know, even in a small organization, say like 50, 60 people, am I past the too late point or what should I really be doing at this juncture to really look at those types of programs and build them into my culture if I haven't already?
Well, I think it starts with your purpose statement, and this can be tied to your mission. So, why you've started your business, but some companies have a different mission and purpose statement. What is ideal if you have figured out what your company is able to do for a group or type of consumer that has a benefit, something good. You're providing a product or a service or access to something that people did not have before. They need this because it's going to increase their livelihood, increase the money in their wallet, increase their access to food or water or faster. Whatever it is that you're doing, try and tie it to a need that is existing in our world today. There are so many out there. If you're down the road and you don't have that, a way to think about it is how do you leverage the things that your company has for good? So I'm working with a commercial real estate company right now, and they have a lot of warehouses and they have a lot of trucks. And so they didn't necessarily think about their purpose statement out of the gate, but they're thinking about it now and they're leveraging their assets to provide impact on the communities where they have warehouses and where they have trucks to provide access to food, toys in the holiday time, things that is so easy for them to just embed because the cost's already there and their employees love it because their employees are already there too. So they're leveraging three different things that they've already got in their ecosystem that reinforces their impact on the communities where they are. So people are happy that they're there. They feel that impact. So I love being able to, if you have to retroactively add in your purpose and tie it to business, leveraging the things that you've got, not just donating to the person that you know or necessarily the sport that you like, but using something, tying it to the purpose of your organization or assets of your organization. Then thinking about the inside of your business. How are you going to attract and retain demographic, but also cognitive diversity around you? That requires a founder to understand themselves, their background, their worldview, their thinking styles, all of those things, and make sure that they are surrounded by people not like them, but unlike them. It's such a natural human thing for us to surround ourselves with people like us because it feels good, it feels easy. We ask the similar questions or we get the things, but actually what makes us better business people is that we ask people that aren't like us, that don't behave like us, that ask different questions. Yes, sometimes it can be a bit of a bummer or it can be harder, but the outcomes are always better. And so as you're structuring your team or thinking about who your advisors are, don't choose the people that have had that similar path to where you are, but people who have had a different path, people that reflect your customers for sure, but people that think differently than you.
No, I love that. And there's power in those different perspectives because as an individual, you don't understand what it is to walk in those other shoes. You may think you know, but until you've walked in those shoes or lived in those shoes, you don't have an understanding. And your messaging, your pricing, your approach, that could absolutely be diminishing your target, especially like on the returns. Like, you're not getting the buy-in because you're not getting to the right people and whatever your product is or whatever your service is out there, and that's like that turning the people into profit, that vision into profit happens of where that gap starts to come in there. At
Yeah.
least that's if I'm thinking right, as somebody building a business myself, I'm thinking about these things down the road and maybe I'll get there one day and maybe I won't. It might just be me forever. Who knows? But it's the life of a consultant. But the value though, that we can kind of bring in this and that perspective, I think especially with what you do with organizations is really, really valuable, bringing somebody in from the outside that understands it to help build that.
Yeah, I think that's helpful. I think, what I wish people asked me or were more naturally aware of was when they don't know necessarily what the flags look like, when they don't have a feedback mechanism or aren't asking someone to go look under the hood of how they're operating. Because maybe it's scary, right? I get that. Like, maybe you don't want to know. Maybe you don't want change.
Ignorance is bliss. That's the only way I can say it. But it's not healthy.
But it's not healthy and it's not profitable. So if you really are committed to growing a profitable, optimized organization to outpace your competitors, the things that you need to know are who's around you. And here's a flag that I often look for. If people are agreeing with the leader, you're in trouble. You do not have cognitive diversity for sure around you, because what you don't want is a bunch of nodding heads around the table going, yeah, great idea.
Yeah.
It feels nice, I'm sure. And a lot of founders have a very compelling vision and way of communicating that is, what's the word I'm looking for? Attractive, charming, all the things.
Yeah.
Magnetic.
Magnetic.
You get in and you want to follow this train. But actually what you need to do is create a culture where people speak up and they challenge authority and they challenge the status quo and they share crazy ideas, because that's what gets you to innovate. So you can't just say, oh, I want to be innovative in my business. And then all of a sudden the CEO finds that they're just having all the ideas and everyone's saying, got it, let's go. You need a team around you that say, hold on a second, I think we need to challenge that. Where's the evidence? What are the risks? Or what could we do it this way? Or let's think about the impact of that and how we could make it better. You need people around you creating that healthy tension. So that's a major flag that I often recommend to leaders and also board directors or investors of these startups who are going, who's disagreeing? We need those people. And if there's no one disagreeing or challenging the CEO, we're at risk. That's how you should be looking at it. Another thing is, how are we measuring? And what does it really mean, these measures? This is a big flag for me, for leadership, for board members, for investors. Have you looked at all the measures? Not just the financial metrics, but the equity, the social impact, and not we held an event or we had 100% participation in our survey or everyone came to the learning that we hosted. But did it work? Did any of those things work? That's what I'm looking for. And so you're looking for the culture, you're looking for the measures, and then you can start to dig into what strategically is going wrong here and start to solve for it.
No, I love that. And it's right to that point. How many of us had worked in these organizations where a leader this is the way, and everyone's like, oh, let's go do it. And you become a pack of lemmings. And we all know what happens to lemmings when they run, they go off the cliff, and then they're all confused. Like, how did that happen?
How did
Who
that
saw that
happen?
one coming? And they all point the fingers as they're going over the cliff going, it's their fault. No, it's not. It's because you had only one idea that you're just saying yes to and not taking a step away and go, wait a minute, we're all running over a cliff. There's a cliff way down there. I see it. And everyone's like, oh, and they just go. And it can destroy an organization and set it back years in terms of profitability. I mean, think about, I like to think about, we talk about all these layoffs that happen, right? In mass layoffs, because companies invest in these things. They don't have the right vision and purpose. Everybody is saying yes. And then they just splash people off for the bottom line. And I think part of it is because they're missing this kind of point. And I don't know that they have those right programs to really understand what their value added driven purpose is, what people are they bringing in to impact and grow the business. And that's why they get to these marks. And you got to start sacrificing people for profit to keep the board happy, because it's the only path forward, because you can never get past this marker and you're not looking inward. So, in terms of data, what did you see? Like if what would be the difference between an organization that you come into and that doesn't have these type of programs versus an organization maybe that does? Where do you see that difference in growth and profit?
So if we look just at the D in the acronym, the diversity, we know that almost 2.5 times more performance come from organizations with diversity at the leadership level than not.
2.5
So
times.
2.5 times.
Wow.
That's just the D.
And I don't care what size your organization is, that is a lot of money. So that is opportunity that could easily be
That's
solved.
opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then what we see is on the other side, I look at the I on inclusive culture. And this is truly, the measure is, do I feel included by my manager for the most part in this organization? Can I speak up and not risk retaliation or being told to get in line? Am I trusted? Am I inspired and confident? Organizations that have an inclusive culture also see, I think it's one on its own, inclusive culture is just over 1 times more performance. But what you're getting is more innovation, more agility, things that a company can move faster, which if you're a startup, particularly in tech, you need those qualities. You need to be able to fail fast and move on, keep going. But when you have both the D and the I, we see an additional uplift because you're getting the different backgrounds and you're getting the cultural norms and the speak up. So this is the sweet spot. On the outside, I think most of us know by now, I would hope, that customers are looking for socially responsible organizations. The statistic is actually 76% of consumers say they're more likely to buy from a socially responsible organization. If you are selling a product or service, this is a no-brainer. This is something that will create increased loyalty in your customer base if you can prove and show and tie that narrative of how you're improving the lives of your consumers and communities and people. It's going to be better for business. I don't know. So overall, I think if you had all, the number, I think it's 2.2% higher 5-year return on equity at the end of the day.
Wow. And the social impact alone, in addition to that. And if you're listening or watching and you're thinking, I want to throw this out. The consumer base is changing, folks, right? The Gen Zs are of age. and they are more socially aware. They are more socially consumed, not just in the products that they're interested in, but in the companies that they're looking to work for, because they want to know the impact that you have in your stance on environmental issues and issues about food and equality and pay equality. They are looking not just to work for organizations, but they're looking, and they tend to spend their money at organizations that very well define it. And they're coming in, and they are that next group, the end of those millennials and all those Gen Zers coming in. They're going to drive what the future looks like.
Exactly. They're voting with their feet, their wallets. They're voting as employees. They're voting as consumers, and they're being public about it. It's not just one person's behavior they're sharing on social media. When they decide that a brand no longer aligns with their values, and why. And I've seen recent examples of organizations that maybe they had a great environmental angle, and so they're thriving on the E, but their social impact is poor. They're not treating their employees well, and their board governance is poor. It's a sort of one-person show. And people pick up on that. They can read between the lines in the news and say, you know what, I get it that this seemed really great because it was good for the planet, but this doesn't add up for me. This isn't going in the right direction. You are having actually a negative impact on humans. So I'm a no, and I'm going to return the thing, and I'm not going to use the thing. And I don't think that's going to retract. It's been a harder year overall for, let's say, diversity and inclusion and ESG. There's some noise in the system about how much energy is going into this, but consumers, employees, people are not retracting. I think that companies are just figuring out this is part of how we do business. This is not a program. And that's what I was sort of alluding to at the start. The programs aren't going to have the impact. It's the strategy. Embed the strategy. The strategy works. I've seen it myself. I've implemented many of these elements right into talent systems and business infrastructure. When you do it that way, you get the results because you're measuring it, and your business is tied to it. Your CEO is tied to it. This is how you do work. And I think if you can follow that kind of model, you're going to see the return and everyone's going to benefit.
Carolyn, just your view and vision and explanation of this, and just those numbers that you shared on what type of impact on growth that it can have. I mean, it is, for me, is a compelling case, right? And maybe we'll go back to the beginning of what I said early on, the statement that kind of hit that it's never too early, but it can be too late. I want to revise that to, if you are listening to this and this has had a light bulb moment for you, it's never too early, but maybe it's before it's too late. And maybe that is a better statement to see that'll hit people home, and the value of finding a consultant or a coach like Carolyn and engaging her and bringing her into the business is a value prop that you need to invest in, because unless you had somebody that understands this, it can teach you how to do it and you're ready for it, you're never going to be able to figure this out on your own. So with that, Carolyn, I want to make sure that everyone knows how to get and find you. So I want to give you a little plug, on your business here. Do you want me to share, or would you like to share how people could find you?
I'm happy to share. I'm happy to share. So my website is clcoimpact.com. You can find me there, clcoimpact.com. You can look me up on LinkedIn for sure, Carolyn Lawrence. But one more thing that you can do, and this is a special offer for our listeners right now. So this is through until the end of 2024. So you will have access to the AI strategy tool that is currently being tested, which means all the things that I just talked about, you can ask my chatbot. Its name is Pathfinder, and it is trained with all of my strategy evidence, research, frameworks, definitions. You got it. I've been building it and testing it for a couple months now. It's now ready for public consumption, but I won't be launching it until the new year, and it will be part of a paid subscription model. So this audience has access to it now where they can test what works for their company, what works for their audience, and I'll be able to see and it will learn from you. So we're all learning and benefiting together, but I'd love to know what you think. So you can find that. It's not a public URL. It's just available to this group. I'll give it to you now and we can probably share it in the notes, but it's clcoimpact.com/pathfinder-beta.
I love it. AI is like the future, is getting integrated, and I'm eager to see how this works. And honestly, I've been talking about AI in recruiting and optimizing operations, and this is another whole systematic change. I'd love to have you back on after the new year and have you share some data and things you learned, and let's talk about AI.
Oh, and don't get me started on AI. I'm not necessarily a tech leader, but I can't believe it. I've built chat bots now. I'm building an avatar. It's just unbelievable. It blows my mind every day what I can do.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Look, expanding your horizons, expanding your business, and still making an impact. I think that's really unique. And yeah, we're going to drop all of Carolyn's information into our comment section. You'll find it on our YouTube page and also on all our distributors in the notes section of how to get a hold of her and how to get into this chat bot. But we're going to take that away at the end of 2024 because get it while it's hot and being on the front end. So Carolyn, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your background, your expertise, your experience with our audience today. This was absolutely super impactful. And I just enjoy our conversations. I enjoy you as a person. And I look forward to having you back on Beyond the Bottom Line. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And thanks to everyone listening. Good luck with your impact.
Yeah, actually, everyone. So before I let you go, I want to thank you for not only joining us on this journey, continuing listening or liking or following and hitting that button at the end of the podcast, but for sharing this and send your mailbag questions in. We want to get them answered and want to get them to Carolyn to answer. And if I can answer, I will as well. As you can tell, I am passionate about helping people who are investing their life savings and starting a new business. And I want to bring you the tools, the people, and the thought leaders that are going to help you not only get on the right path, but on the right path in order to build something sustainable and successful for the test of time. So again, make sure that you like or follow us there at the bottom. And if you want to check out my business and that as well, you can always find us at www.elevate-talent-solutions.com and check us out on our blog, our links, and our info. And until next time, if you're interested in sending any questions to Carolyn directly, you can send those to info@elevatetalentsolutions.net. And thank you again for listening. And until next time, keep building.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Beyond the Bottom Line. Do you have questions for Ron or today's guest about this episode? Reach out and your question might be featured on next week's mailbag. You can learn more about Ron and Elevate Talent Solutions at elevate-talent-solutions.com or on LinkedIn. This podcast was edited and produced in partnership with Adrienne Rushart, principal of boutique marketing firm ACR Ventures. Check her out at acrventures.com for all your small business marketing needs. Be sure to hit that follow button and send us love letters and episode ideas to Ron Miller at elevatetalentsolutions.net. Tune in next week, and thanks for listening.